Good evening, everyone. The doctor is in, and thanks again to the Chosen Prime. I have for you Make Toys Vulcan, their version of Hotspot for Transformers Combiner Defensor. Obviously, Vulcan is a fire truck, a blue fire truck. The figure itself, or I should say the vehicle itself, is very solid. There is some heft to it. There is no die cast that I have come across. And everything it's tabbed together very well. And in general, it's very solid. It does have 8 wheels. They're plastic. They do roll very, very smoothly. The detailing is quite good, I think, on the blue paneling, the windows, the front of the fire truck. The ladder does go all the way back this far. It also does extend about 2 times the length, maybe slightly less than that. In order to rotate it, we'll need to remove these parts here, and it will rotate about 180 degrees to the left and right, or 90 degrees to the left and the right, and the ladder will go that far. I like this. I think it's pretty solid. There are some that will have some issues with it. For one, I think on the side here, there's some breakup of the design with the not blue coloration here with the black here. Some folks have mentioned that I've talked to that in the front, on the top here, that there's these slots and holes here that looks like something is supposed to go there. In fact, it is not. The lights they felt could have been in the front, which I kind of agree with, but because of the design, that's where they lay. The hands or the fists of the robot are also visible here, and the top of the front of the cab looks a bit unfinished, but from the side it's hard to tell that. The transformation for Vulcan from fire engine to robot and essentially into Guardia does involve a bit of parts forming. Personally, I don't find this to be a hindrance to the figure, but as we know, some folks out there are simply not fans of parts forming. Everything is tabbed and locked in very well, and when assembling or unassembling things, I don't feel that I need to use kid gloves. It's obvious that the design and transformation are borrowed and retooled somewhat from Fans Project Diesel, aka Motormaster, in that Vulcan forms the legs and feet, and Axle and Rover become the leg attachments. I will say that I think the transformation is moderately intuitive. For the most part, the transformation made sense, but some instruction on how to fold things and how to tab or untab panels is extremely helpful. I do really like the leg and foot transformation and how the feet are large and sturdy, but especially how the thigh panels unfold to allow extension of the limb, and then fold the opposite direction to lock it into place. The upper torso and arm transformation is a bit more complicated, but has many of the nice clickety and ratchety joints that we all love. For the most part, the transformation tends to make sense and come together well. The automorph transformation that is upcoming of the head is very cool. The hip panels for Guardia mode should be rotated down out of the way to allow for proper waist rotation, or else they will get in the way. The final appearance of Vulcan in robot mode will be left up to personal opinion, but I feel for the most part that it's accurate, and with the addition of some repro labels would be even better. In the upcoming stills, you will observe the differences between Vulcan Combiner Wars Hotspot and G1 Hotspot, the latter sticking up as part of the backpack and the tires in the chest stuck out as differences to me, but without direct comparisons I would not have noticed it. And it may even add more character to the robot mode. The articulation is what you would expect from a Make Toys product. The head rotates 360 degrees and has some limited up and down movement. The shoulders are ratcheted on a hinge joint, but also rotate 360 degrees. There is a bicep swivel, but it will also swivel at the elbow as seen here, more so for transformation. The elbows are also double jointed and the wrists rotate all the way around. The waist does rotate completely around as well, and there is an additional ab crunch joint. This is mainly for Guardia mode, but does help with additional posability in Vulcan robot mode. The hips are on a hinge and do rotate forward and back. There is a thigh swivel and a knee joint on a hinge. The ankle tilts do rotate quite a bit as well. All of the parts that have been removed all have the versatility of being attached to the robot for a weaponized or super mode. Personally, I do like the option of being able to attach and keep all these parts with the figure, although it does add a bit of kibble and probably limits some of the posability. Transformation from robot to Guardia mode first seemed a bit daunting, but it actually turned out to not be as bad as I'd first thought. The legs are fairly straightforward and easy to figure out, and again somewhat borrowed from the Fans product diesel design. The large, sturdy feet become the lower legs as seen here. I like the way that Guardia gets a different set of abs than Vulcan. The ab crunch joint extension is subtle, but does increase the size of the torso enough to keep Guardia proportional in stature. These next few steps of the transformation are the most complex. I did my best to illustrate all the tabs that should be inserted to give this figure its stability. It is important to get the Vulcan arms lined up appropriately in order to fold them up and tab them in proper locations. I found it was best to get them lined up like I have here in the video. I fold the hinge joint and fold the top panel down onto the tab. Then you fold the entire assembly inward and line up the tab and the slot. Once it is all together, it is very solid. The chest shield is somewhat unique from other combiners in that it slides in and then Guardia's head can be moved down and locked into it. The shoulder connection points can then be moved into proper position to accept the arms. We can now attach parts and limbs. The feet are pretty simple to prepare. You want to make sure that the little heel spur is towards the inside of the leg. So the first one shown there is the left foot, and it will slide and lock in as shown. Same with the right. The ladder attachment fits onto the back as shown. It can be placed on the right or left side of the back and gives the combined mode some asymmetry. Guardia's hands can be removed from those cannons, which can then be tabbed into the ladder attachment. The hands can then be unfolded and attached to Hayamed and Katana, and they are both very firm attachments. Axle is probably the most difficult to attach to the limbs. It may have just been me, but I had a difficult time lining up those irregularly shaped tabs on either side of the calf. Once it is locked in though, it is very sturdy. The rest of the limbs, Rover, Katana, and Hayamed, all attach fairly easily. I will also add that they seem to detach with minimal difficulty as well. Most of these third-party combiners are nice and solid when all put together, but some are also somewhat difficult and scary to take apart. I felt that the attachment and detachment with Guardia was fairly smooth, with the exception of connecting axle to the leg. Many third-party combiners, especially the more recent ones, have pretty good articulation. I'll let this video and pictures speak for the rest of the articulation for Guardia. What I like about it though is that it not only is the articulation on par or better than most third-party combiners, but I'm not afraid to pose the thing in many different poses. It holds together very solidly and there is minimal kibble that gets in the way of posability. The proportions of the combined mode are perfect and it will look really nice on a display shelf. So my final thoughts on Vulcan and Guardia. I think Vulcan is a great figure in and of itself. That version of Hotspot has a very good design and great articulation. But if anything, I think the alt mode of the fire engine is a bit lacking with some of the things I mentioned earlier in the video. As far as Guardia goes, I think it looks fantastic. The articulation with all the limbs is very good. It is solid. I think it is one of the most posable of the combiners that I've had experience with anyways, yet to date. It is very flexible and it can be put in many poses, as you'll see in some of my pictures. So I would say that I really like this figure. I want to thank the Chosen Prime for allowing me to review this test shot. I hope you enjoyed this review. This is Dr. Prime. Thanks for watching. The doctor is out.